All right, so we're diving into something pretty wild today. The whole Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson thing.
Yeah, it's got everyone talking, right?
It really does, and we want to kind of go beyond just the surface level hype, and we dug up some interesting stuff, some quotes and sound bites from these guys to kind of get into their heads a little bit.
Yeah, get a sense of, where they're coming from, how they see this fight going down.
Exactly. So let's start with Jake Paul. The YouTube star turned boxer, and he actually has a lot of respect for Tyson. He even
Yeah.
calls him one of the GOAT's greatest of all time.
Yeah, he puts him right up there with Ali.
Yeah, which is interesting, right? I mean, you got this young guy, kind of coming from this whole different world, but he clearly recognizes Tyson's legacy in the sport.
And I think that respect kind of adds another layer to this whole thing.
For sure. And Paul is really leaning into this idea that, this is more than just a fight. It's this huge event that's going to bring in a whole new audience to boxing.
Yeah, he's making some pretty bold predictions, like 700 million viewers on Netflix.
700 million? But where does that even come from?
Right. It's a massive number, but he's talking about, Netflix having like 238 million subscribers. And then you add in all the casual viewers who maybe wouldn't normally watch boxing, but are drawn in by the spectacle of it all.
Yeah, the whole Jake Paul phenomenon. I mean, love him or hate him, he knows how to get people's attention.
He does, and he's very much playing into that. He's
Yeah.
using his platform, his social media presence to build this fight into something even bigger than it already is.
And then on the other side, you've got Tyson, and he's not exactly shying away from the hype
Yeah,
either,
no, he's embracing it. He's calling this the biggest fight in boxing history.
which is a pretty big statement. I mean,
It is, but, Tyson's never been one to downplay things. He's always been this larger-than-life figure.
right, and he's not letting things like age or past losses, hold him back. He even
Yeah.
kind of dismisses that McBride fight, saying it's irrelevant
Mm.
because he's a different fighter now.
Yeah, he keeps pointing to that Roy Jones Jr. fight as proof that he's still got it.
Which is interesting, right? Because that was an exhibition match, but Tyson clearly feels like it showed he can still compete at a high level.
Yeah, and it definitely got people talking. It showed that there's still this huge interest in seeing Tyson in the ring.
So you've got these two guys both incredibly confident, both with something to prove, and they're coming at it from such different angles.
It's a fascinating dynamic, right? You've got this YouTube era showmanship versus this old school boxing legend.
And speaking of showmanship, do you remember that moment in the interview where Cameron tried to kind of control the conversation and Paul just snapped back at him?
Oh, yeah, that was a little tense.
I mean, you could see Paul kind of bristle at the idea of anyone trying to tell him what to do or how to act.
I think that gives you a little insight into his personality. He's not afraid to push back. He wants to be in control.
And then you've got Tyson, who describes this fight as yin and yang, which I think is a perfect way to put it.
It really is. You've got these two opposing forces coming together. It's this clash of styles, personalities, generations.
Okay, so we've talked about the hype, the personalities, but let's get down to the actual boxing here.
Yeah.
What do you make of this matchup from a purely athletic standpoint?
Well, you've got Paul, who's younger. He's got the reach advantage. He's shown he can box. He's knocked out some pretty experienced fighters.
But he's still relatively green compared to Tyson, right?
Absolutely. Tyson has decades of experience. He's been in the biggest fights. He's faced the toughest opponents.
And you can't underestimate that experience factor.
Yeah, you can't. Tyson knows how to handle pressure, how to control the pace of a fight, how to exploit an opponent's weakness.
Paul's hoping that his agility, his stamina will give him the edge. He's thinking he can outlast Tyson, wear him down over the rounds.
It's possible. He's definitely in good shape. He's been training hard. But Tyson's power is legendary.
Yeah, one good punch from Tyson could change everything.
Exactly. And it's not just about physical ability. It's about mental toughness, the
Right.
ability to stay focused under pressure. And that's where Tyson's experience really comes into play.
He's been there, done that. He's seen it all.
Right. And that can make a huge difference in a fight.
Now, one of the things Paul keeps talking about is how this fight is going to bring in a whole new generation of fans to boxing because of the potential Netflix audience.
Yeah, he sees it as this huge opportunity to expose the sport to a wider audience.
What do you think about that? Could this actually have a lasting impact on boxing?
I think it's definitely possible. Paul's online following is enormous. He knows how to generate hype. And if the fight lives up to the expectations, it could bring in a lot of casual viewers.
People who might not normally watch boxing.
Exactly. And if some of those viewers become actual fans of the sport, that's a win for boxing.
So it could potentially expand the sport's reach, which could be good for boxing in the long run.
Yeah, it could introduce boxing to a younger, more digitally savvy audience, and that could help the sport grow and evolve.
Now, before we wrap up, we have to talk about this whole pigeon thing.
Oh, yeah, the pigeon.
Paul gave Tyson a pigeon as a gift, a pigeon from Southeast Asia.
A very strange gift.
It was, I mean, what do you make of that? Was he trying to get in Tyson's head?
It's hard to say. Paul's always been good at playing mind games, so maybe that was part of it, or maybe he was just trying to be funny.
And Tyson's reaction was pretty classic. He joked about
Well,
feeding the pigeon to his falcons.
yeah, which is very Tyson. He's
Yeah.
got this unpredictable side to him, but he also has a sense of humor about it all.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. The hype, the fighters' perspectives, the potential impact on boxing, even the pigeon incident. What's the big takeaway for you?
I think the biggest takeaway is that this fight is a microcosm of where boxing is right now. You've got this clash between the old guard represented by Tyson and the new wave embodied by Paul.
A clash of styles, generations, approaches to the sport.
Exactly. And the outcome of this fight could have implications beyond who wins or loses. It could shape the future of boxing, how it's promoted, who the audience is, how fighters build their brands.
So it's a fight that's definitely worth paying attention to, even if you're not a diehard boxing fan.
Absolutely.
So for everyone listening, we want you to think about this. Who do you think will win this fight, and why? And what does this matchup say about the state of boxing today? Let us know your thoughts.